Burkhart, my man, is in studio. Long time no chat. You and I haven't been able to cross paths too much because you've been on the road with the Trailblazers, but it's great to have you back in studio. A lot of things I want to talk about.
Absolutely. It feels good to be here. It's like my old Outsiders home. I haven't been in here in forever. I like it.
I love it. I love your dog. What's your dog's name? And I'm glad you brought the dog in today. Hanging out in studio with us right now.
Coda. He's hanging out. He's
What's up, Coda?
Under the table partying, stressing out a little bit. But no, he's having a good day.
He's precious.
Dad left home, didn't want to leave him in the house by himself all day, so I brought him.
What kind of a dog is Coda? He's got the beautiful fur,
He's
white.
a full boxer. Big old white boxer. There he's sticking his head up every once in a while. But
I like that.
But no, he made his debut on Outsiders when I was hosting Outsiders. And he was like 12 weeks old. And
was he a big hit?
Oh man, my old co-host Jake McGrady had him up on the table holding him. It was wonderful. It was wonderful.
That's awesome. All right, I want to play this. We know what happened last night. Blazers lose to the Mavs, 133 to 125. Dame was on fire, 47 points, but the problem was it wasn't enough to overcome the Mavericks offense. Too many open threes. They had 22 of them, 78 points in the first half. It was a problem. And after the game, Dame did something we don't see too often. He let out some frustration in regards to the officiating and one particular call late in the game where he got cracked in the dome. Take a listen to Dame.
The whole game, I'm telling them, they putting their hands in my chest. I'm getting pushed in the back. They riding me. They doing all the things that we get whistled on us. I'm telling them they're doing these things to guard me. Teams are trying to, stop me. They being physical. They trying hard. So just look for the contact because it's there. And then, like I said, you're down 13. I would do a reverse layup. Guys smack me in the head. The referee's right there. And I ask him, how do you not make that call? And he tells me, we all agreed that you leaned into him. That's an insult, man. You leaned into him? He smacked me in the head. Like, come on, man. That's frustrating as hell. And then you get that type of explanation. You leaned in him and he smacked me in the...
Near F-bomb there from Dame.
Yeah.
It's not too often we see him express that type of frustration with the officiating, but he's right. I mean, We've seen this now for years, right, where he doesn't get the calls that he probably deserves throughout the course of the full season.
Yeah, absolutely. First off, the audio in that clip was clean, and that's because Jay was on the other side of the scrum. He wasn't next to me, pushing into my bubble, hitting my mic.
Yeah, Jay Allen screwed you up. You were there for, I forgot the exact quote, but you were getting audio from, it was either Dame or Trevor Ariza. And the audio wasn't great because someone kept bumping into your mic. And I just thought it might be Jay Allen doing that. But I called you out, and you just happened to be in the car with your wife, and she heard me call you out.
Oh, she loved it.
She thought it was
She
great.
loved it. And I think her appreciation for you, skyrocketed.
Awesome.
She already loves you, but she likes anyone who's going to pick on me.
No, but that audio was good. But what was your takeaway there?
I think it's important to note that he said that because you don't see him say that openly to the media that often. He is very... calculated in what he says and how he says it, and he knows that there could be repercussions of that, and I don't think he cared last night because the calls were egregious. And that play right there, we agreed that you leaned into it. Well, yeah, he did, but he was also doing a reverse layup, and the leaning back into it, that's part of the natural motion of that shot. And it wasn't just that shot. There was plenty of more that he took and got fouled on, and there was no call, and he was upset about it, and it was just... What's the deal? What does he have to do to get calls?
Exactly. So that's what I want to ask you about. And I had two questions, and I don't necessarily have the answer to either of them. But first off, let's deal with question number one. Why do you think it is that Dame doesn't get the calls that he deserves? And I think there's some possibilities here. Kyle was having a conversation with me earlier. If you look at the All-Star voting, Dame is third for guards behind Doncic and Harden in Western Conference. I wonder, we in Portland think Dame's a superstar, but outside of Portland, maybe on a national level, he doesn't get the respect and the attention he deserves like some of the other players. I'm not saying Dame's a top 5 NBA guy like LeBron or Giannis or Anthony Davis, but he's definitely a top 10 guy. Maybe because he doesn't get the national attention, maybe refs don't view Dame the way we do.
Well, I still think that's crazy. Why not? So this idea that you're throwing out there, okay, you're only going to get calls if you're in the top 5 or if you're in the top 10 or in the top whatever. Well, that's bull, because it doesn't matter if you're in the top 5 or you're one guy who just got called up from a 2-way contract in the G League. A foul is a foul, and the call should be the call, right?
That's true, but a foul has never been a foul in the NBA, and a call is not just a call.
And that's stupid.
And that's the way it's always been.
And Damian Lillard, outside of he's not an all-star starter, but he's one of the top players in this entire league. So the fact he doesn't get the calls is just weird. And you watch that game last night, and he's getting hammered. Carmelo Anthony has been treated like a rookie this year. Like he's getting rook calls left and right. And then guys like Doncic go out there and they get a ticky-tack foul call in their favor, or a lot of the teams Portland's playing against. And it's really weird to me, because if I had an answer, I'd be able to give you one. But I've watched enough that I don't have the answer.
Do you think the league just has a set of guys that they treat differently than others?
I think they do.
Well, because Zion was getting calls the other night. That guy, first game he's ever played as a rookie.
Yeah.
Okay, so if it's not that, maybe it's this. We've noticed Dame over the last year to two has really ramped up the complaining. Mm-hmm. He'll go over and have a conversation. He's always looking over at the official. Do you think maybe his attitude and approach is something they don't like, and therefore they're not giving him the calls that he deserves?
I think there might be something to that. And Dwight James wrote a good article on our website this morning, mcsportsnorthwest.com, about how there's a lot of ref turnover. Like, there's a lot more younger refs in this league than there used to be, guys with 2-3 years of experience who maybe haven't been working with superstars as long or been working with Dame as long. And so a guy who comes in here and does start complaining, it's your first year, your second year in the league, you label that guy as a complainer, and eventually you're just not going to listen to him, right? And it's the guys that I remember always complaining is like a Tim Duncan. But Tim Duncan is an all-time, like, Mount Rushmore type great. And Dame just isn't there yet. So I think a young ref comes into the league and sees Tim Duncan and is like, well, yeah, that's just Tim being Tim. I'm going to let him get away with that. That's LeBron being LeBron. I'm going to let him get away with that. And then it kind of comes to what you're saying about this national picture. Maybe Dame's just not in that conversation with some people. And I've said it here already, and that's asinine to think that.
Okay, maybe it could be that they don't complain enough. Terry Stotts, Damian Lillard, they're not guys who get thrown out of games very often. They're not guys who get real aggressive with the officiating at times like other coaches do, like Doc Rivers or some of the other players who are constantly in the face of the official. Do they not complain enough?
I think there can be merit to that, too. Because how many times have you and I said this, like, Stotts need to get a T right here. Just get ejected. Fire him up, because I think at some point, if you're not going to go past that line, you're not going to establish, like, okay, now I've had enough.
Yeah.
Then that line's going to continue to move further and further, and the refs are going to just kind of tow it more and more and push you more and more, knowing that you're not going to go over it, right?
Yeah.
And so I think you have to go over it. Do that thing that gets you a tech or gets you ejected to establish that, you know what, this is enough. I am tired of this. I'm not going to let you dictate how this game goes anymore. And I also think there's a place to be had for being respectful and being, true to the game and not getting ejected, but there is a time and place for everything. And I think there absolutely is a time for these guys to get fired up like that.
What did you hear Melo say about how the game is played today and how that's had an impact on the way the game's being officiated?
This is interesting how the game has gone to a perimeter-oriented game, right? I mean,
we saw that last night
all
with
these
43
teams
threes.
shooting threes like old teams used to shoot layups. And I think especially with these younger refs, you're getting guys who are more used to officiating the game outside than inside. So I think you're getting calls at the rim, or players who like to play with their back to the basket, like a Melo there in the mid-range, that the refs are just not used to officiating that. So things that are fouls aren't getting calls. Things that aren't fouls aren't getting calls, just because they're like, what is this?
Yeah,
they're not beyond the three-point arc. I'm not used to this. How do I even officiate this?
So all their focus is on the perimeter with the three-point game, the three-point shot and the way it's changed in the game, and they're not as used to or accustomed to like we would back in the 80s or 90s with all the play being so low post, the emphasis on the low post back in the day.
Yeah, and players know this because players adjust to it because, I mean, maybe there's stats that say otherwise, but I feel like you are seeing far more like 4-point plays than you've ever been used to seeing, because now these players know how refs are officiating beyond the arc, and they know how to get away with maybe creating contact on that shot, which I think is weird too, because I always think it's weird when a foul is called on a 3-point or on a 4-point play where a guy shoots the ball's far removed from his hand, and then the guy hits him, and then they call a foul. Like, that foul didn't affect the shot. Like, how? But players are getting used to that and adjusting to how refs are calling that.
All right. What do you think is the best course of action to try and get more calls, to get more respect from the officials? Is there anything they can do? And if so, what is it? What can Dame do?
I think it's weird, but I think to get those calls in general, you have to find a way to attack the basket more. I know Dame goes to the rim, but not as much as I'd like him to, especially with no Nurkic. The pick and roll just isn't the same as it used to. Hassan doesn't roll and dunk like Nurk did. I mean, he can, but he just hasn't been used effectively in that way. But I think if you are a team who just says, okay, we're going to just start attacking the basket at all costs, and we're going to get hit, we're not going to get calls, but I think eventually the refs are going to sit there and go, well, that's how this team is playing. We have to adjust the way we're going to call this game because they're not going to go outside all the time. Because I've always sat there when people get mad and go, oh, Portland plays Houston, and Houston got so many more free throws than Portland did. Well, yeah, because Portland is staying on the perimeter, not attacking the basket where a lot of fouls should be called. And then you have James Harden, who is the biggest, flop artist, and not in a bad way. Like, people hate him for flopping. I'm like, dude, he's found a way to game the system. Don't hate the player, hate the game, right?
Yeah.
And he's good at it. He's the best we've ever seen at getting that call. I think Portland just needs to be uber aggressive and just go, knowing they're going to get calls that aren't called, and deal with it until they change.
All right, Chris Burkhardt in studio. A couple other Blazer items I've got to deal with, and I love your dog Coda. I spent that whole time, about 5 straight minutes. He was right below my knees, and I was petting him. And
he's taking over. They're trying to produce actual radio and TV over there, but he's trying to get
pulled a Dame.
loves.
He was leaning in on me.
I
like that.
He's trying to get loves.
All right, so trade deadline. Mm-hmm. What do you think is going to happen with that Whiteside contract?
They have to move it. They can't afford to not move that. If they don't move that, then I feel like they are stuck, because now they don't have an asset to get rid of. They don't have money to work with in free agency. You have to get assets back. Now,
were you surprised that they used the Bazemore contract to basically save dollars?
If you would have told me that was the deal at the beginning of the year, I would have been shocked and been surprised. But knowing how Dame and Kent Bazemore and Anthony Tolliver both played, it was no longer shocking, because you looked at Kent Bazemore, everyone wanted to see that guy put into a big deal. He's a big expiring contract. We can get an asset back. But it's the same thing I said with Myers Leonard, and that was, if you don't like this guy, he is getting opportunity. He's not taking advantage of it. He's having some of the worst years of his career. What makes you think 29 other teams are just itching to pick that guy up and give up a good asset in the process? It's not going to happen. That was what's happened with Kent Bazemore. So I think it was a good move to still get out of that, save some cap space, get out of the luxury hell, and get a guy in Trevor Ariza that can contribute this year. Whiteside, on the other hand, is having a career year. He's a double-double machine. People are looking at that, and there are teams that he can help. So if you do not trade that and get a tangible asset back that can help you in the long run, then you missed bad, and you can't afford to do that.
I keep looking at a team like Boston. They need help at the center spot, right? Whiteside could be an attractive piece for a team that's looking to make a run. So you don't think they were tipping their hand?
No.
That saving money is the main priority, that they're still focused on doing whatever they can to get something of great value in return for Whiteside. So not for this year, but so they have something to add to next year's team when they get guys back.
Yeah, I don't think they're tipping their hand at all. I think they saw an opportunity to like I said, unload that contract in a decent amount of time, get something back in value, and they did that. People who say, oh, yeah, but they used 2 second-round picks, that's NBA candy. I'll go buy a couple at draft time. Whiteside, though, is where the intrigue is, and I think there's a lot of potential things to look at. I think you look at what you just talked about, Boston. Gordon Hayward is available. People are saying that. If you said 2 years ago that Whiteside was going to be traded for Gordon Hayward, I said you're crazy. But now, the way Danny Ainge has built that team, Gordon Hayward is expendable. Do you do that? If it's available, yeah, you do it. Kevin Love is another one that a lot of people say is not going to happen because of Kevin Love not wanting to play in Portland. But if he swings his mind and wants to play here, absolutely you pull that deal. And fans who say, well, Gordon Hayward is paid $34 million. I don't want to dump that money on that. Kevin Love is paid too much money. I don't want to dump that money on that. Okay, my argument for those guys and that money is, if you let cap expire in Whiteside and you have a mid-level exception to work with and you go into free agency with $2.5 million, right? Do you want $2.5 million on another Anthony Tolliver or a Mario Hezonja to come in? Or do you want to say, screw it and have your $27 on a Kevin Love or a Gordon Hayward or anyone else you can bring in? Because, yeah, that's a lot of money, but talent-wise, much better than anything you're getting in on the MLE.
All right. If you have time, I want to keep you for another segment because we got to talk Super Bowl.
Yes.
You're a huge Niners guy. Your dad's a huge Niners guy. We got to talk about this. and I'll ask you today's poll question. All right, Chris Burkhart's in studio. His dog Coda's here, and we're cruising along on a Friday. Really enjoying this. You got the Rip City Drive.
Hi there. It's Les Schwab Tires. Well, more like Les Schwab alignment and brakes and shocks and wheels and tires. Now, some tire places don't offer all that. They only sell tires. And we're not sure how they sleep at night, because all those services affect things like steering and stopping. That's why we offer more than tires to help keep you safe. Stop by or book an appointment at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires, doing the right thing since 1952.
The game of football is about pain. 7 years old until I stopped playing at 31. I thought that foot pain was going to be with me for the rest of my life. I'm so glad I met Good Feet. I'm so glad that those arch supports are in my shoes. If I had known about the Good Feet arch support earlier, I would have more than one championship. I would have 2 championship rings.
See if they work for you with a free arch support fitting at the Good Feet store.
Hi, everyone. Al Roker here. As a guy with his own catchphrase, I appreciate that after 75 years, Smokey's only said,
"Only you can prevent wildfires."
But I'm filling in because there's a lot more to report. Like when there are parched or windy conditions out there, you gotta be extra careful with things like burning yard waste. After all, wildfires can start anywhere, even in your neck of the woods. Go to SmokeyBear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention.
30 years of The More You Know?
Wow, that's older than I am.
Shut the front door!
3 decades of discussing.
How to strive for better health.
Make your mark on politics.
Even spread a little kindness.
30 years of celebrating.
Diverse voices. Comunidades más fuertes.
A sustainable world.
And a bright future for young people.
For 30 years, we've been here for you.
And together,
we continue to shine.
The more you know.
Welcome into this Talking Ducks Extra. Jordan Kent alongside Anthony Newman. And for the Oregon football team, they fill a much-needed coaching vacancy. Offensive coordinator Joe Moorhead, former head coach in Mississippi State over the last 2 seasons, will now be the new OC for the Ducks. He was also the head coach at Fordham, Penn State offensive coordinator, and a lot of excitement around Moorhead here, Anthony. What does he need to bring to the Ducks next season?
I think he brings to the table a coordinator that knows the offense, that knows all the positions. He can coach everybody, and that's what Mario wanted, a guy that can control that offense and do some good things.
You look at Moorhead, an impressive resume. A lot of people excited about what he did at Penn State, of course, as the offensive coordinator there. But now with Moorhead and Andy Avalos, many people think Oregon possibly having the 2 best main coordinators in the Pac-12. Don't forget, you can catch Talkin' Ducks every week on NBC Sports Northwest.
Dear Jack Frost, people say you've got ice in your veins, but underneath it all, you're just a big old softie. Go ahead, try to nip at our toes. Thanks to our available Remote Connect. We'll be toasty and warm and ready to go. Warm wishes, Toyota Cars.
Lease a 2020 Corolla or Corolla hatchback for $189 a month, or get $1,500 customer cash on Corolla. Find yours at buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places.
The workday of a Northwest Natural field technician is spent going from customer to customer. But when a technician gets a call from dispatch about a potential odor, they drop everything and head right to it.
Are you available to respond?
Looks like I'm pretty close.
That's why, if you smell rotten eggs or sulfur in your home, we're counting on you to go outside and call us, so we can get a technician right over to check things out.
Thanks.
At Northwest Natural, when it comes to your safety, it's all in a day's work. Smell? Go. Let us know.
Remember your first time in Portland? The rivers and bridges? The streets buzzing with energy. We all arrive on our own unique path. But no matter what brought you here, Rip City is the one bridge that connects us all. From visitor to local, onlooker to lifelong fan, our home is the Northwest, and our team, the Trailblazers.
Make sure you survive winter. Call your local Daikin Comfort Pro.
before it's too late.
I dare you to lick your spoon. What do you say? Hey, 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 AAA Heating and Cooling.
Rip City Mornings, Dan Sheldon, Nigel Burton with you. Glad to have you along. A year left on his contract. Get me out of here.
So my guy, Damian Lillard, this guy, love him.
I expect Neil Shea to be very, very aggressive.
That was legendary.
What am I doing wrong?
Ball is back. Unreal. I'm making strides with patience. Changed man.
Come on, man.
You're listening to Rip City Drive with Travis and Chad, brought to you by Lazy Boy. What's your strategy for comfort? On NBC Sports Northwest 620 Rip City Radio.
Do you want the Blazers to make the playoffs, Chris?
I do. I think there is always intrigue in that. I used a poker term today and confused my boss, but I said all you need is a chip and a chair. As long as you have a chip and a chance to play another hand, you got a chance to win. You can upset people. And I would rather people say, well, a first round matchup against the Lakers, it's 4 games, maybe 5 games, and you're done. I would rather have the intrigue as a fan to see what could happen rather than sit on the outside of the playoffs and go, well, I'll never know, especially if you get Collins back and you get Nurk back and there's a lot of intrigue as to what could happen. Yeah. Plus, I don't think the draft this year is that deep or that great at all. Why would I want to go to the lottery?
I don't disagree with your take on the experience of getting to the playoffs, but my problem is this. Is it worth rolling Dame out there for 40 minutes a night and just grinding him into the ground so you can become the 8 seed? Because the best case scenario now for Portland, they're like 7.5 out of the 7 spot. It's either the 8 seed or nothing. So you're talking about running him into the ground to go and play the Lakers and get punched in the face.
No, I don't think it's worth running him 40 minutes a night if you're in contention for the first seed.
Well, why does Terry Stotts do it? Why doesn't someone come up with a plan so they can find a way to reduce the wear and tear in his body? They just gave him $250 million.
Sometimes I think it's because that's the type of player Damian Lillard is. I think he would play all 48 most nights if he really wanted to.
That's the problem.
And that's where the coach and the people in charge need to protect him from himself, right? Like, to me, there's no reason, even if you're in a huge playoff hunt, that he needs to be playing more than 35 a night.
Yeah.
But again, roster composition, depth. Do you have the guys out there? Like Anthony, as much as I love him, hasn't been anywhere close to what Portland needed him to be this year. So you kind of are forced to play Dame these big minutes. So the answer is no. I don't want to play him 40 minutes a night, even if they're in contention for a top 4 seed. That's a lot of minutes on a body, man.
All right. I want you to weigh in on today's Rip City Friday Twitter poll question. It involves Super Bowl 54 coming up, Chiefs, Niners a week from Sunday, which is going to be terrific. Who's going to have more Super Bowl titles over the next 10 years? Patrick Mahomes or Jimmy Garoppolo?
Wow. Over the next 10 years?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. That's tough. But I would go Garoppolo, not based on talent, but based on coach. I think Shanahan is special. He is special. What he's done with that offense, the way he coaches. I mean, you saw it in his time as a coordinator in Atlanta. What he does is special. Andy Reid, on the other hand, has been good too, but we know his track record with winning the big one and how often he actually gets there. Talent-wise, Mahomes is a once-in-a-lifetime talent, but I think Kyle Shanahan is kind of that once-in-a-lifetime coach, and that's where I'm going on that one.
How do you see the game playing out? Like, in your mind, how do you think the Niners match up with Kansas City?
Well, it's a great offense versus a great defense, and I just wrote about this today because it was on a USA Today poll, but that happened when the Seattle Seahawks played the Denver Broncos, which was an all-time great offense at the time, and the defense destroyed them. They were up 36-0 at one point. I'm sorry to bring that up.
No, but if you go back through history, this is a great point. In my lifetime watching Super Bowls, first Super Bowl I watched from start to finish the 85 Bears. Defensive dominant. They killed the Patriots. I saw Super Bowl 25, Bills and Giants. The Giants were underdogs. The Bills were favored. They had Jim Kelly and the K-Gun offense. Giants won that football game. You mentioned the Seahawks and Broncos. What about the Panthers and Broncos when Denver had the great defense?
Yeah. And
every time we've seen the defense match up with the offense, the defense gets over. The Patriots with Tom Brady when they got over on the greatest show on turf with the Rams.
Yeah,
defense.
And being a young, like a young fan too. Like I remember, like the Ravens, the Ray Lewis defense. They won a Super Bowl with Trent Dilfer. Like, like that says something. So in the Super Bowl situation, I'm always going with the defense. And with the way that Niners defense has played, that's been absolutely phenomenal. And unlike the previous few games here that Kansas City has had, if San Francisco gets a 10-point lead, then they can just start running and drain that clock on you. And I heard someone say today on the radio, I wish I knew who it was so I could credit them, but they said San Francisco is a team that can run the ball even when you know they're running the ball and you still can't stop it. And with the way Juszczyk has been out as a blocker, everyone looks at Kittle because he's a great pass catcher. But that game last week, it was against the Packers. Jimmy G snaps the ball. Kittle's off in the second level. He's already blocking a linebacker, and that's why Mostert put up 200-plus yards. It was unstoppable with the way they did their run blocking. So if they get a 10-point lead, it's going to be a lot harder for Kansas City to come back from that, because not only do they have to battle an all-time great defense, they have to battle an offense that can just really milk that clock on them.
I agree with your take on Shanahan, and what I've respected about the 49ers all year is like their toughness. They're built tough, so they can win a game so many different ways. They can run the football, they can drop back and throw. We saw that in the win in New Orleans in the Dome when they had to score big to get the win, or they can play in bad weather. They go on the road, they can do it anywhere. But I thought Brian O put it best. He's like, look, San Francisco can beat you several different ways. The Chiefs basically have one way, and that's with Patrick Mahomes playing good football.
Yeah, and I think
versatility's there for San Francisco.
Yeah, and that's the team I think you should always be scared about, because to have the record that they did, but it almost felt like no two wins were the same. Like I look at the game against Washington in the rain, where it was like, what, 9-6 or something like that, nothing but field goals. They won it dirty. Then
Sometimes you got to win dirty.
Yeah, won games with the run game, won games with the pass game, won games on the special teams. And so I agree with that. Can Kansas City be one-dimensional? Absolutely they can. I look at Kansas City and go, the offense will win that game. I don't know if that defense can win them a game. I look at San Francisco and go, that offense can win them a game. And if they need to, that defense can win them a game.
100%. 100%. I love your dog.
Coda,
your dog
calm down.
Does this mean Coda loves me because he's all over me right now?
Yeah. What I love about everyone at the office is they all ask me, like, can I let him jump on me? Because most dog owners like down, 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 as am I. But everyone here at the office wants to jump up and give him hugs too. So I appreciate that y'all love him.
You're such a good boy, Coda.
He just loves.
Yes, I love
And he will probably be in a San Francisco 49er jersey on next Sunday.
Coda, you're awesome.
Coda, get down. Get down.